Hello friends, I am Dr. Bhupika D. Patel, Assistant Professor, Department of Pharmaceutical Chemistry, Institute of Pharmacy, Nirma University, Ahmedabad, with interesting and learning episode of D-Pharm on the important unit of sulfonamides from the section of Medicinal Chemistry 3, Semester 7, which is prepared by myself and Professor Manjunath Ghate, Professor and Head, Department of Pharmaceutical Chemistry, Institute of Pharmacy, Nirma University, Ahmedabad. Let us start our episode while taking a look at what we are going to learn today. In Module 1, we will see synergism of sulfonamide with dihydrofolate reductase inhibitors. Module 2, toxicity and side effects, reduction of crystalluria in case of sulfonamides. Module 3, structure-activity relationship of sulfonamide. Module 4, physicochemical properties and biological activity of sulfonamide. In the earlier lecture of sulfonamide 1, we discussed the development, classification, mechanism of action and uses of sulfonamides. Here in this session of sulfonamide 2, we will discuss other important aspects of sulfonamides like SAR, physicochemical properties and biological activity, side effects and toxicity, etc. Let us start with Module 1, synergism of sulfonamide with dihydrofolate reductase DHFR inhibitors. In an attempt to synergize the action of sulfonamides and to avoid the development of resistance to them, the most logical approach is to combine them with agents that block the same metabolic pathway as that blocked by sulfonamides, but at different sites. This is shown in a figure where synergistic mechanism of action of sulfonamide and trimethoprim, which is a dihydrofolate reductase inhibitor, is presented. The discovery by Hitching et al. In 1948 of certain diaminopyrimidines showing good antimicrobial activity through antifolate mechanism, and the reports that antifolates acted synergistically with sulfonamides added a new dimension to the therapeutic uses of sulfonamides. The elucidation of the folic acid pathway and the demonstration of its inhibition by both sulfonamides and antifolates provided this possibility. Later, Greenberg and Richson in 1950 and 1951 reported that antifolate aryl oxypyrimidines and diaminopteridines potentiate the action of sulfonamides in experimental P. gallinaceum infection. Since then, combination of pyrimethamine as shown in figure and sulfonamides have been used for the treatment of plasmodial, toxoplasmal and coccidial infections. Combinations of trimethoprim and sulfonamides have also been used for number of bacterial infection, which is shown in figure. This synergism is clearly a consequence of the sequential arrangement of the twin loci of inhibition. Factors that contribute to the usefulness of such combinations include several fold increase in the chemotherapeutic index, better tolerance of the drugs, ability to delay development of resistance and ability to produce cures where the curative effects of the individual drugs are minimal. The choice of drugs used in the combination is based primarily on their half-life characteristics. For example, trimethoprim with sulfamethoxazole both have the half-life of around 11 hours is a commonly used antibacterial combination. Dihydrofolate reductase inhibitor trimethoprim was first used for the treatment of infection in humans in 1962 and it was registered for use in combination with sulfonamide in 1968. The use of trimethoprim and sulfonamide in combination has a synergistic effect as both drugs affect bacterial folic acid synthesis. Sulfonamides inhibit dihydropteroid synthetase DHPS, which catalyzes the formation of dihydrofolate from para-aminobenzoic acid PABA. In the subsequent step of the pathway, trimethoprim inhibits dihydrofolate reductase DHFR, which catalyzes the formation of tetrahydrofolate from dihydrofolate, which is presented in a figure. The crystallographic studies of both the enzymes DHPS, that is dihydrofolate synthetase, and DHFR, that is dihydrofolate reductase, from different organisms have greatly helped to understand the structure of the ligand binding sites on these enzymes and the molecular basis of their action and synergism. DHFR, that is dihydrofolate reductase, from various sources differ markedly in their binding affinity to various inhibitors. Pyrimethamine is bound much more strongly to the enzyme from Plasmodia than from bacteria, and the converse is true for trimethoprim. This explains the choice of trimethoprim for bacterial infection and the pyrimethamine for anti-malarial chemotherapy. Thus, although pronounced differences exist in the affinity of DHFR inhibitors for dihydrofolate reductases of different origins, the structural requirement for inhibitors of the dihydropteroid synthetase for the various species studied are somewhat similar. Cotrimoxazole, which is a combination of sulfamethoxazole and trimethoprim, shown in a figure in optimal ratio of 5:1, has bactericidal effect. Due to slightly different bacterial spectrums and different resistance profiles of these two drugs among pathogenic bacteria, combination improves the usefulness of the individual drugs. It covers a wide antibacterial spectrum with bactericidal effect, which encompasses E. coli, Shigella, Streptococcus pneumonia, Haemophilus influenza, Staphylococcus aureus, etc. Pseudomonas aeruginosa is resistant to both sulfonamides and trimethoprim. This combination is used as first-line antibiotic in hospital-acquired infections like pneumocystis, pneumonia, and nocardiosis. Also, for the treatment of mild lower urinary tract infection in a child. In the treatment and prophylaxis of patients with urinary tract infection, trimethoprim and sulfamethoxazole or trimethoprim alone is still considered as the first-line drug of choice. Although increased bacterial resistance to these agents has been linked with treatment failure, it has a possible role as a second or third line treatment for patients who have respiratory tract infection. With this, we have come to the end of module 1. Let us begin with module 2, which is around the toxicity and side effects of sulfonamides, as well as we will see how we can reduce crystalluria problem. Sulfonamides are less frequently used nowadays because of three main reasons. First, since their introduction in 1930s, many other more effective antibacterial agents become available. Number 2, resistance to sulfonamides occurred quite rapidly after their introduction. Number 3, side effects that are quite common among treated patients. These side effects are sensitivity reactions like exfoliative dermatitis, skin rashes, urticaria, drug fever, etc. The other side effect is a crystalluria, which is caused due to poor solubility of sulfonamides in a urine, especially when the urine is acidic. And another side effect is blood dyscrasia, where patients suffer from hemolytic or aplastic anemia, granulocytopenia, or leukemoid reactions. Gastrointestinal upsets and kernicterus in newborns are other side effects of sulfonamides. Among all these sulfonamides, the major side effect is crystalluria, which we can reduce. For that, solubility of sulfonamide in a body is of great importance. The clinically used sulfonamides, being weak acids, are soluble in basic aqueous solutions. As the pH is lowered, the solubility of this N1 substituted sulfonamides decreases, usually reaches to a minimum in the pH range between 3 to 5. The solubility of sulfonamides in the pH range of human urine, that is pH between 5.5 to 6.5, is again of utmost clinical and toxicological significance because damage to kidney is caused by crystallization of sulfonamides or their N4-acetyl derivatives. Solubility of acetylated drug is much lesser, and due to that, danger of its precipitation in the urine is correspondingly increased. Also, pH of urine plays important role in determining whether or not free or acetylated drug will be precipitated in urine. Because the urine is usually acidic around pH 6, and so essentially all the sulfonamides with pKa value greater than 6 remains relatively insoluble and non-ionized form in a kidney and coming out from the solution in the urine, which causes crystalluria. Obviously, unless the pH is above the pKa, little of the water-soluble salt is present. Thus, higher is the pH, it is less likely to be precipitated. So, to prevent the problem of crystalluria during the administration of sulfonamides, it is advisable to drink a plenty of water or alkalizing the urine by administration of sodium bicarbonate solution before the successive doses of sulfonamides. Sulfanilamide derivatives with lower pKa values near or lesser than the pH of the urine can also prevent the problem of crystalluria. Few examples of such sulfonamides with the pKa value lesser around 6 or 7 are sulfadiazine with 6.5, sulfamerazine with 7.1, sulfamethiazine with 7.4, sulfazoxazole with 5, sulfamethoxazole with 6.1, sulfamethiazole with 5.5 and sulfacetamide with 5.4 pKa value. Another solution for crystalluria is use of mixture of different sulfonamides. The combination of 3 sulfonamides known as trisulfa. This trisulfa USP is a mixture of sulfadiazine, sulfamethiazine, sulfamerazine, which does not require prior force fluid administration. So, with this, we came to the end of module 2. Let us begin with module 3, that is around structure-activity relationship of sulfonamides. Because sulfanilamide is a rather small molecule and there are not too many variations that can be carried out without changing the basic nucleus, following generalizations regarding structure-activity relationship were arrived at quite early in the development of sulfonamides, which guided the subsequent work on molecular modification. These generalizations are also shown in a figure in a schematic way. The first point of SAR is aniline amino group, that is N4 or para-amino group, central aromatic ring, and sulfonamide group, that is the N1 amino group is essential for activity. The amino and sulfonamide groups on the benzene ring must be in 1,4 disposition only for the activity. Replacement of the benzene ring by any other ring system or the introduction of additional substituents on it decreases or abolish the activity. The N4 amino group should be unsubstituted or have a substituent that is removed readily in vivo. Acetylation of it generates prodrug of sulfonamides which gets metabolized in vivo by enzyme peptidase to free amino group. This amide group lowers the polarity of sulfonamide because unlikely to free amino group, it cannot ionize and due to that it readily crosses the gut wall. Example of this prodrug is succinyl sulfathiazole, which is a prodrug of sulfathiazole shown in a figure. Maximal activity seems to be exhibited by sulfonamides between pKa 6.6 to 7.4, so that at physiological pH, that is pH around 7.4, drug remains unionized, that is more lipid soluble form, and can cross bacterial cell wall. This is accomplished by lipophilicity of sulfonamides due to the presence of the benzene ring. Once inside the bacterial cells, sulfonamides must be ionizable and contain both a positive and a negative charge on opposite sides of its structure, which further resembles the structure of PABA and results in binding of sulfonamides to DHPS, leading to its inhibition. Exchange of the sulfonamide group, that is SO2NH2, by another group, that is SO2 para-amino substituted phenyl, that is SO2C6H4, which is para-substituted with amino group, retains the activity, whereas exchange by amide group, that is CONH2, or by COC6H4, which is para-substituted with amino group, markedly reduces the activity. N1 monosubstitution results in more active compounds with greatly modified pharmacokinetic properties. N1 disubstitution in general leads to inactive compounds. N1 substitution can be varied. Aromatic or heteroaromatic rings can be placed as the R substituent. This should be such that its pKa value should be approximately around the physiological pH 7.4. It mostly affects solubility, blood levels, plasma protein binding, and duration of action of sulfonamides. Thus, a drug which binds strongly to plasma protein will be slowly released into the blood circulation and will be longer lasting. Changing the nature of the group R has also helped to reduce the toxicity of some sulfonamides. These variations are therefore affecting the pharmacodynamics of the drug rather than its mechanism of action. This is a table of different sulfonamides where we can find the effect of various heterocyclic ring substituent as R on the half-life and oral absorption. The first example is sulfaceoxazole, where you would find isoxazole as R substituent is having half-life of 6 hours and its peak levels is achieved in 1 to 4 hours, that is the oral absorption is very prompt. Second example is sulfamethiazole with a thiazole ring as R substituent with 9 hours of half-life, which is a short one, and the oral absorption was absorbed, which is very prompt. The another example is sulfamethoxazole, where you will find isoxazole as a heterocyclic R group with a half-life of 10 to 12 hours, which is the intermediate half-life with slow oral absorption. The last example is sulfadoxine, where you would find pyrimidine as the R group with a half-life of around 7 to 9 days, which is the longest half-life with the oral absorption in an intermediate category. Now let us discuss the effect of pKa on sulfonamides. The pKa of the sulfonamide group of sulfanilamide is 10.4. So, at acidic pH of urine, that is pH 6, most of the drug remains in unionized insoluble form and causes crystalluria. Obviously, unless the pH is above the pKa, little of the water-soluble salt is present. The newer semi-synthetic sulfonamide possess lower pKa value because of the electron withdrawing heterocyclic rings which are attached to the N1 position. This provides additional stability for the salt form. Hence, these drugs donate a proton more easily and the pKa values are lowered. In figure, we can see the electron withdrawing effect of N1 substituted heterocyclic ring on pKa. Thiazole ring, if it is present in sulfathiazole, if we replace it with a pyrimidine ring in sulfadiazine, then pyrimidine ring is more electron withdrawing than thiazole. So, sulfonamide NH proton becomes more acidic and ionizable, and therefore sulfadiazine and its metabolite are more water soluble with reduced toxicity as shown in a figure. Silver sulfadiazine is used topically to prevent infection in burn. Simpler electron withdrawing groups were extensively investigated but were found to be too toxic, poorly active, or both. Example is N-sulfanyl acetamide. Monosodium salt, sodium sulamate, which is shown in a figure, is obtained as the monohydrate and is a white odorless bitter crystalline powder which is very soluble in water. Because the sodium salt is highly soluble at the physiological pH of 7.4, it is especially suited as a solution for the repeated topical application in the local management of ophthalmic infections susceptible to sulfonamide therapy. With this, we came to end of module 3. In the next module 4, we will see physicochemical properties and biological activity of sulfonamides. Studied to find a correlation between physicochemical properties and bacteriostatic activity of sulfonamides have been pursued almost since their discovery. The substituents that attracted the attention of investigators quite early were the amino and the sulfonamide groups in the molecule, and several groups of other investigators almost simultaneously noted a correlation between the bacteriostatic activity and a degree of ionization of sulfonamides. The primary amino group in sulfonamides apparently plays a vital part in producing bacteriostasis. Since any substituent on it causes complete loss of activity, as per the proved study, the amount of negative charge on the aromatic amino group is significant for the activity. However, variation in the activity within a series of compounds cannot be attributed to a change in basic strength, since all the active sulfonamides have a basic dissociation constant of about 2, which is close to that of PABA. Fonsler and Martin in 1967 computed the electronic characteristics of 50 sulfonamides and found that the electronic charge on the 4 amino group did not vary with a change in the N1 substituent. Thus, attention has been focused mainly on the acidic dissociation constant, which varies between 3 to 11. Fox and Roses in 1942 noted that sulfathiazole and sulfadiazine were about 600 times as active as sulfanilamide against a variety of microorganisms, and that approximately 600 times as much PABA was required to antagonize their action as to antagonize the action of sulfanilamide. However, the same amount of PABA was required to antagonize the MIC of each drug. This suggested that the active species in both cases was similar. The increase in bacteriostatic activity was ascribed to the presence of a larger proportion of the drug in the active form, that is the ionized form. If only the ionized fraction at pH 7 was considered instead of the total concentration, the PABA drug ratio was found as 1 gem 1.6 to 6.4. They also observed that with a 10-fold increase in ionization of sulfanilamide on altering the pH from 6.8 to 7.8, there was an 8-fold increase in bacteriostatic activity. On the basis of these observations, Fox and Rose suggested that only the ionized fraction of the MIC is responsible for the antibacterial action. Bell and Roblin in 1942, in a comprehensive study of the relationship between the pKa of a series of sulfonamides and their in vitro antibacterial activity against E. coli, found that the plot of log 1 upon MIC against pKa was a parabolic curve, and that the highest points of this curve lay between pKa 6 and 7.4. The maximal activity was thus observed in compounds whose pKa approximated the physiological pH. Since the pKa values are related to the nature of the N1 substituent, the value of this relationship was emphasized for predicting the MIC of new sulfonamides. The pKa of most of the active sulfonamides discovered since then, including the long-lasting ones, fails in this range. Coles in 1942 and Bruckner in 1943 suggested that the sulfonamides penetrate the bacterial cells in the unionized form, but once inside the cell, the bacteriostatic action is due to the ionized form. Thus, it is not the extracellular ionic concentration that governs the potency of the sulfonamides, but rather the intracellular ionic concentration, which in turn is limited by the permeation of undissociated or unionized compounds. Hence, for maximum activity, the compound should have a pKa that gives the proper balance between the intrinsic activity and penetration, that is, the half-dissociated state appeared to present the best compromise between transport and activity. This was in line with the parabolic relationship observed by Bell and Roblin in 1942 between pKa and MIC. The pKa for optimal activity found between 6.61 to 7.4. Overall, the pKa is highly related to the solubility, partition coefficient, permeability, tubular secretion and reabsorption in the kidney. This, however, does not mean that the ions of different sulfonamides are equally active. Other factors are also involved in explaining the difference in the activity of different sulfonamides, such as hydrophobicity and affinity for the target enzyme. Lipid solubility of the undissociated sulfonamide is also an important factor for the chemotherapeutic activity of sulfonamides, and their in vivo transport. Lipid solubility of different sulfonamides varies over a considerable range. These differences unquestionably influence their pharmacokinetic and antibacterial activity. It has been noted that long-acting sulfonamides with a high tubular reabsorption are generally distinguished by a high degree of lipid solubility. With this, we came to the end of the last module. In conclusion, we can say sulfonamides works best in synergism with dihydrofolate reductase inhibitors, trimethoprim and pyrimethamine by delaying the development of resistance, and combination product covers a wide range of antibacterial spectrum with a bactericidal effect. In the treatment and prophylaxis of patients with urinary tract infection, trimethoprim and sulfamethoxazole is still considered as the first-line drug of choice, although increased bacterial resistance to this agent has been linked with treatment failure. SAR study suggested that aniline amino group, that is the para-amino group, central aromatic ring, and sulfonamide group, that is the N1 sulfonamide group, is essential for activity. The amino and sulfonamide groups on the benzene ring must be in 1,4-di position only. There is a direct correlation between the bacteriostatic activity and the degree of ionization of sulfonamides. Only the ionized fraction of the sulfonamide in a body is responsible for the antibacterial action. Thus, it's a pKa of sulfonamide which governs the ionization, solubility, partition coefficient, permeation, duration of action, side effects, etc. within a body. The maximal activity is observed in a compound whose pKa approximated the physiological pH, that is in a range of 6.61 to 7.4. So dear friends, with this you have gained a complete idea about the chemistry, structure-activity relationship, physicochemical properties, side effects and toxicity of sulfonamides. We also learned about the synergism of sulfonamides with trimethoprim and pyrimethamine. These are the dihydrofolate reductase inhibitors as bactericidal combination. If you have missed any of the module or content, you may log on to our website www.cec.nic.in to download videos, FAQs, LOR and other content so that you can remain updated with this chapter. Time for you to self-study. This is Dr. Bhumika signing off. Till that, goodbye and good luck.